Welcome to episode 41 of the Practice Squad, a show where we talk about football, shoot the breeze, and make even the replacement refs cringe. I'm your host and fourth string quarterback Jeremy, joined each and every week by my co-host and backup long snapper Joseph. How's it going, man?
Who would have thought that either the Dolphins or the Niners would be 3-3 by this point,
Yeah,
let
that's
alone both?
yeah.
Like either the Dolphins are only, one win or the Niners have at least four, but not both 3-3.
Yeah.
But I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yeah, neither Dolphins fans nor Niners fans would have thought that. So we are live right here on YouTube every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Pacific. If you like what you hear and want to support us, don't hesitate to like, share, and if you're feeling extra generous, subscribe. You can like, share, and subscribe even if you think you could run this show better than us. This week we've got games to talk about, a week that was as wacky as ever, commentators to make fun of, and of course, wild predictions. So we're going to jump into our first segment of the night, which is our game of the week, which almost became like a least of the week, actually. Uh, Browns at Steelers. So this was a 4-1 team visiting a 4-0 team, a divisional matchup, and it did not live up to its name. It was a 38-37 romp on the side of the Steelers.
38-37.
38-37. 38-7. And just the score kind of tells the story. Like, this is one of those games that the Steelers just kind of dominated all three in all three areas of the game, offense, defense, and special teams. Mayfield threw two picks. One of them was a pick six. And the Browns just didn't really seem like they could get their offense going much. And the Steelers had a great pass rush in that game, got a lot of pressure. On the converse side, the Browns didn't seem to muster up much pressure against Big Ben, who didn't actually throw much. His passing numbers were pretty lean. But they did lean on James Conner a lot, and he was successful in the run game. And then there were a few kind of deep strikes thrown to wide open receivers that kind of opened up the game for them. And the other thing was the Browns had a couple of fourth down attempts that did not succeed, and I have some complaining to do about that when we talk about sort of some general things later. But I think as far as specific plays, there was a play where Mayfield actually escaped some crazy pressure. He did that a couple of times in the game, but he escaped pressure. And unlike in Mahomes or Murray or even like a Dak Prescott or Russell Wilson kind of fashion, uh, running out of the pocket and making throws is just not something that Mayfield does well. And um, he threw an interception. And it just didn't look like he had much into that throw. And I don't think he's that kind of guy. And I was disappointed. I was really hoping to see after the Browns, the Browns are 4-1. Keep that in mind. I was hoping to see a better connection between Mayfield and Beckham in this game. And I think Beckham caught I'll get the stats
Two
right
for
now, but
25.
I think Beckham only caught, what is it? He caught two passes on four targets for 25 yards. So Beckham was pretty much a non-factor in this game. So that was a bit disappointing. Perhaps
You
because of the pass rush.
want to know who
Perhaps,
else was a non-factor in this game?
what was that?
You want to know who else was a non-factor in this game?
Who?
The entire Cleveland Browns team.
Yes, including Case Keenum. Um, so yeah, those are kind of my thoughts. There's some the interceptions from the Steelers were fun to watch. They're athletic plays, and the Steelers just seemed like they kind of did everything right in this game. So what were kind of some general observations that you had, Joseph?
Well, Chase Claypool was awesome, and yeah, he's gonna find his way into the top three, top five receiver in the league here very soon. Um, and so, did you know that he's from Canada?
I did not.
So he has a nickname. It's great. from Canada, and he has some similar physique to Calvin Johnson. So his nickname is Mapletron.
Nice.
um, and I did have a few things I saw from that game or learned. So the Steelers, this was their first 4-0 start since 1979 when I think they won 3 or 4 Super Bowls in the 70s with Terry Bradshaw. But yeah, I was shocked. Their first 4-0 start since '79. All of the good teams they've had in the past few decades. That was surprising. And then the only thing I really have to comment here is Minka Fitzpatrick. And if you had heard in the beginning, right after his pick six, Jim Nantz was saying that people had said that Minka hasn't made many plays and he's going to eventually make one. My brother told me a good point that, well, he's not being targeted. When you're that good and you're not being targeted, you decrease your likelihood of making plays. So he had very little targets their first 4 games, and so of course you're not gonna make a big play. So when your name is not being mentioned, that's a good thing because you're not blowing coverage, but you have less likelihood of making the big plays because you're not being thrown to because you're that good of a safety of a defender.
Right.
So just that's one of the things I brought up in the pre-show with you, man, is talk about is the idea of like being good without having the stats because not being thrown to. So it's a kind of a unique thing to where, let's say he was never targeted. It's similar to Peyton Manning was the MVP of the Colts in 2011 when they went 1-15 and he sat out with a neck injury. So what if Minka had never been targeted the entire season? Would he still deserve a Pro Bowl or All Pro because of that?
Well, I mean, that situation obviously would never happen, but there are definitely cornerbacks that don't get targeted, or safeties that don't get targeted frequently. I mean, that happened with Richard Sherman after he had those first couple of really good years with a lot of interceptions. Teams just stopped throwing to his side of the field.
So it's like Barry Bonds getting intentionally walked. Like he doesn't get punished for the lack of a plate appearances or at bats of hitting home runs and stuff, but he's just not being allowed to play almost because they're afraid of him.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I would say that I think a corner that can put up the stats is probably going to beat out someone that doesn't get thrown to because they're respected. Right, because one is proof and the other one is a consequence.
Yeah.
So I guess it would be it would have to be taken on a case by case basis, but that's what I would say in general. But yeah, like I mean, he had that pick six was really, I mean, he was paying attention to the ball. He was eyeing the quarterback. The receiver had, I mean, no idea where he was going, and I don't know what Mayfield was trying to do there. But Minka knew exactly what he was doing. So, I did feel like in this game, the Browns were really missing Nick Chubb, like badly missing Nick Chubb to the point where I thought Kareem Hunt, he was actually my player of the game negative in this game because he was so terrible. He needs to relearn physics. Joseph and I have talked about how there's some plays and some football players that just don't understand physics, and in this game, for some reason, even though he's had some really successful at least one really successful year with the Chiefs a couple years ago, he would just run. There were 2 fourth down attempts where they handed off the ball to him and he got stuffed like 3 yards behind the line. He just ran into the pile. Like, he's a fast guy. He could easily have gone swept out to the side. I don't know why they didn't utilize him that way, because Kareem Hunt is not a guy that you want running in between the tackles necessarily. You want him on play action. You want him doing sweeps, screens, like those kinds of plays. You don't want him. He is not your Derrick Henry type back, right? So they just misused him in this game, and he didn't understand physics. He was 13 carries for 30 yards. And I think that really hurt them in their time of possession, their ability to get pressure late in the game with their defense exhausted, etc. So it just you could really tell that Nick Chubb was missed in that game. And on the flip side, though, James Conner was my player of the game on the positive side. 20 carries for 101 yards, 5.1 average, 1 touchdown. He was a hard runner, could run up the middle, could run around the side, did everything they needed him to do to extend plays, get first downs, really valuable to them winning that game. So not a very exciting game, not a whole lot more to say. I did get to see Big Ben run, though, once, and that was something that I never want to see again. He's even worse than watching Ryan Fitzpatrick run. It's of all the quarterbacks that could run, which is all of them. I think Big Ben is probably the one that runs with the least finesse. Okay, so that's a wrap for our games of the week, or game of the week. But in this week, instead of doing a second game, which is usually our kind of a shorter highlight game, we're doing something else because there were just so many weird and wacky things that happened in the league this week. And so one of which was that we had 2 Monday night games again. So just another COVID-19 scheduling thing. But Joseph and I each came up with a list of just weird stuff, the unexpected stuff that happened this week. And that doesn't mean that there's not unexpected stuff that happens in other weeks, but we just felt like this week was particularly wacky. So, Joseph, do you want to go first with your picks for this week?
Yeah, so I had 2 or 3. So I'll start with Joe Flacco started for the Jets, right? So the question I have for you, Jeremy, is it's been a while, you remember when Joe Flacco was elite?
Yeah, is he elite? No. Is he so elite that he gets to start for the Jets?
Yeah, the question is, for everyone listening, the burning answer is no, we don't remember when he was elite because he never was. He never will be. So, yeah, and he had a putrid game against the Dolphins, who shut out the Jets. I mean, the Jets are terrible, but they got shut out. So that was great. There wasn't a third down conversion by either team until the early fourth quarter. The Jets were 0-11 and the Dolphins were 0-7 until they got it. And you ready for this one, Jeremy?
Probably
the combined passing yards of the Jets in the second and third quarter, 2 yards.
That smells like someone that won a Super Bowl.
And then so I'll do a quick one here. I'll save the Texans one. I'll do that one later, but I'll go to you after this. So yeah, Aaron Rodgers threw his 3rd career pick 6. He actually had back-to-back picks on the drives, back-to-back drives, and both of those resulted in touchdowns for the Buccaneers. But yeah, there was 3rd career pick 6, and just realizing how little that is. 3 career pick 6s? That seems very small. He's been playing since 2005, 6. So, he had a terrible game against the Bucs, which we'll get to later. But kudos on him for only having 3 of those.
Yeah, I actually watched part of that game, and the Packers, I think, jumped out 10-0 in that game. And
yes.
it looked like they looked like they were just going to run all over the Bucs. Not literally run, but they were going to steamroll them. And then he just decided that his targets didn't wear green jerseys, they wore white and red jerseys, and the Bucs destroyed them. I actually think, do you think the Packers were maybe the hottest team going into week 6?
One of them.
Well, at least in probably the top 3.
Oh yeah, I was going to say, yeah, he's top 3. In fact, just a comment on the pick 6 thing. Looking at Pro Reference, You have to get down to number 244, tied for 244th all time for career pick sixes to get to Aaron Rodgers. So Jared Goff has 3 pick six, and so does Nick Mullins, and so does Aaron Rodgers. Like that's like Case Keenum already has 5. Dak Prescott already has 5. Russell Wilson has 6. Blaine Gabbert has 7. Sorry, Joe Flacco has 10. Wow, Kirk Cousins already. Jameis Winston has 11. Fitzmagic has 13. Now let's get into some popular guys here. So yeah, Brady has 16. Peyton Manning has 27, and Brett Favre has 31. So pretty incredible that Rodgers only has 3.
So what's that as far as a rate? So for Rodgers, that would be like what, 1 every 4 seasons or 5 seasons?
Yeah, about.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine someone having less than that.
Yeah, I mean, considering how long he's played.
That started as many times as he has.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. So, I can go into my Texans one or not, or if you have more of your own wacky things.
Yeah, I'll list a couple. So, Aaron Donald came into the week as the sack leader, and I actually think he still is by half a sack. But he came in, I think it was with 7.5 sacks. And the narrative of the whole week going into their game against the Niners was that the ferocious Rams pass rush was just going to wreck the Niners O-line that was clearly, admittedly, really struggling against the Dolphins and pretty much the entire year up to that point. And the O-line came to play. They totally shut him down. No sacks. He had, I think, 2 tackles and 1 quarterback pressure. So they completely manhandled him. So that was a surprise and definitely a breath of fresh air for me as a Niner, and a sigh of relief watching the O-line finally play to its potential. And then the Bears, man, the Chicago Bears, continuing to win games with really unimpressive quarterback play. I guess their defense is just that good this year, or maybe they're not playing very difficult opponents. I'm not sure. Maybe it's a combination of the two, but they certainly are playing way above the level, at least the record that I thought they'd have at this point.
So I'm going to say their opponents, it's not great, but it's not terrible. So you have Lions, Giants, Falcons, Colts, Bucks, Panthers. That's not terrible, and it's not great. That's kind of middle.
Yeah, that averages out to middle of the road probably.
And but that Bucks win was kind of unexpected. I mean, Brady blew it at the end there with oh, it's 4th down, and so yeah, I think the Bears are more like a 3-3, 4-2 team. But yeah, they had that crazy comeback against the Falcons as well. So I feel like they're a little inflated, and while they might make the playoffs because of how bad some other teams are in the NFC, I wouldn't expect to see them. I can't see them going very far.
Yeah, not if they can't figure out their QB situation. I had also the lifeless Broncos upset the Patriots. That was pathetic. The Patriots scored 12 points. And of course the Broncos would win a football game with 18 points.
Yeah, no touchdowns.
Oh, was there really no touchdowns in that game?
No, the Broncos scored all on field goals.
Oh my goodness. 6 field goals. That's amazing. That's really amazing. Wow.
Yeah, dude, when's the last time the Dolphins had a better winning percentage than the Patriots? Before Tom Brady?
A long time.
Well, the year that 1 year that the Dolphins made it, because I think when Brady got injured. So once in the past 20 years.
Yeah, that was really, really unexpected. And now I don't know what to think. That threw it up in the air. Well, no, here's the thing: the Niners are playing the Patriots this week.
No, I know, dude. The Patriots are such a weird. Like, I don't know what to expect either. I don't know what.
I don't know if they're going to come out and rush for 200 yards or if they're going to like wet the bed like they did on Sunday. I don't know. Um, so I have one more, and that is the Bengals lost to the Colts, which is not a surprise. I mean, I think we both picked that, didn't we?
I think I picked the Bengals, to be
Okay, it
honest.
was a close game. I picked the Colts, but the Bengals were up 21-0 after the first quarter, and then the Colts scored 21 points at halftime. It was 24-21 Bengals, and then the Colts went on to win. So they gave the Bengals just completely blew their lead. Um, which is another thing that's weird about this season so far, and this might just be recency bias, but there's feels like there's a lot, like every week there's a big story about like an epic 3 touchdown comeback, right? There was that Rams
Terrible.
Bills game where the Rams scored like 4 touchdowns and almost won, and this game where the Colts scored 3 touchdowns, and that I can think of I think there were at least one or two others. I can't remember previous years that had crazy comebacks like that. Can you?
No. Yeah, obviously it does happen, but this year has felt like a lot, and we're barely like a third away in the season.
Yeah. So I'll keep an eye on that. Did you have any other ones?
Yeah, I'll end on the Texans one. So, 1 second. Was the Texans head coach who made the terrible decision? Oh yeah. Well, he was only filling in because Bill O'Brien got fired. So the Texans playing the Titans. And did you know about the 2-point conversion call they made at the end of the game?
No.
Okay, so Texans and Titans had a great game. This would actually have been eligible for a highlight game. So Titans are up 14-0 first quarter. Going into halftime, Titans are up 21-10. Texans score 13 unanswered in the third quarter, and then they both get 13 and 15 points respectively. Titans getting 15 in the fourth quarter to tie, go to overtime. But Texans, just John Watson and Ryan Tannehill just played great. They're both on our Rec Face segment here coming up soon. They both just played amazing. The Titans, right, go up. Sorry, the Texans with 8:37 left in the fourth go up 30-29. Okay, and they get the ball back, and I think that's when Tannehill was intercepted in the fourth, and they're driving down, and they spend 6 minutes or so driving down the field, and they score a touchdown. They're now up 7. Okay? They're up 7. They have 3 timeouts left. There's 150 left after the 2-minute warning, and the Titans only have 1 timeout left. What do? You kick the extra point and go by 8. They went for 2. And the reason was, wanted to win the game. The Titans, they had not been able to stop Ryan Tannehill. They didn't want him to go back down and score, and force overtime, I guess. But it's like, okay, it still would have been a bad decision if going for 2 would have made an 8-point lead, but that's kind of understandable. But going for 2 would have given them 9 points. The Titans still had to go down, score a touchdown, and get 2-point conversion, and then you go into overtime. What a terrible decision. Now, if you're 0-7, fine. Okay? If you're 6-0, also fine. Really trying to get the edge. The Texans still had hope. This was a must-win for the Texans. Absolute must-win. It was a terrible call by the Texans interim head coach, Romeo Crennel. And I think that he might get, I know he's the interim, but it'd be very hard. I'm feeling more sympathy for him now that I realize he's the interim. But I would be very hard for me to not fire him because the Texans had hope. This was a must-win. They already played. Listen to their schedule: Chiefs, Ravens, Steelers, Vikings, Jags, Titans. Okay, they won against the Jags. The Vikings aren't as bad. Like they're better. They're not playing at their potential. And then playing the top 4 teams in the AFC, and however you want to cut it, top 4 out of 7 in the NFL, top 4 out of 9 in the NFL, top 3 out of 5, top 2 out of 3, however you want to spin it. The best teams in the NFL, they played them. A couple of them were close. They could have been 2-4. They still have the Packers, Browns, and Patriots left in division games, and the Bears. But they could have done it. They needed this win. It was huge. What a terrible call. And guess what? Titans go down there, score a touchdown, get the 2-point conversion, and then win on a Derrick Henry touchdown in overtime to win the game. So if you're in a place to where kicking the extra point puts you up by 8, do it.
Oh, yeah.
And here's the thing. Now I'm going to rip on Deshaun Watson a little bit. And people on the show should know, I praise Deshaun Watson and I like him. But he made a mistake here. And he made a mistake that I don't think Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady or other guys would have made, who know when and how to put touch on the ball, or even Lamar Jackson and throw it kind of sideways. On that 2-point conversion, there was a guy really wide open in the end zone. He was only a couple yards away, obviously. And Deshaun Watson, he threw it into traffic. 2 defenders just standing there. All he had to do was maybe do a pump fake, throw it sidearm, do a little jump in the air and do a lob pass, and they would have gotten the 2-point conversion. So it was already a bad call to go for the 2-point conversion, but then it was a bad execution on Watson's end for it to fail as well. So I think that cost the Texans. They already had a small chance of making the playoffs before that, but they had a chance. For me, that completely cost them their chance of going to the playoffs, and now their season's pointless.
Yeah, that's always a killer when they lose because of well, you pointed out the Watson thing, but where fundamentally they probably lost because of a stupid coaching decision. That's always killer. I did not know that, but that was a great explanation, and I agree. I think that did put the nail in the coffin for their season. Who I think we both pick the Texans to win the division?
Yeah. And
I might have picked the Colts, but I know we both had them going to the playoffs.
Yeah, and I mean, it is true that they've had a killer schedule so far, and they still have some good teams left. But yeah, they, because Watson has played. Watson is doing well. He really is. It's just obviously their defense and their offensive line has to scramble around all the time. So we can move on after that.
All right. So transitioning to our third segment of the night, who wrecked face this week? Some good ones. Joseph's going to start off with quarterbacks.
Yeah. So I'll just go to the game we were talking about right now. Tennessee and Texans. So both guys just played stellar. So Ryan Tannehill, 30 of 41 for 364 yards, 4 touchdowns and a pick. And then Deshaun Watson, 28 of 37 for 335, 4 touchdowns and no picks. And then Matt Ryan just came out angry against who did they play against? Vikings.
Yeah.
30 of 40, 371, 4 touchdowns and no picks. So great game by him. And then the Arizona rushing. So total, they had 261 rushing yards.
Oof.
on a 7.5 average.
Sizzling.
Yeah, with 3 rushing touchdowns. And then the highlight of that was Kenyon Drake, 20 for 164, which is an 8.2 average and 2 touchdowns. And then one of my favorite things to do in the show is after say who wrecked face, to say who got their face wrecked. And by just pure numbers, this may not exactly qualify, but considering who the quarterback is and his momentum into this game, he deserves it. It's none other than one of the greatest to ever play, Aaron Rodgers. Sorry, buddy, but you were terrible. 16 of 35 for 160 yards, no touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. That's bad, and he got wrecked. So hopefully he can pick back up because he is great. He's having a great season still. But against the Bucs, whew, that was bad. That was ugly.
All right, and then we've got one running back, and I've got a receiver and a couple of defensive players. So for the running backs this week, Derrick Henry yet again. I think he's been on like every week except once maybe. 22 carries for 212 yards, 9.6 average, 2 touchdowns, and then 2 receptions on 5 targets for 52 yards. So he was responsible for 264 yards of offense, which is what they call a workhorse. Receiver Justin Jefferson, who was 9 receptions for 11 targets, 166 yards, 2 touchdowns. So great performance in their awkward loss to the Falcons. I didn't know this, but apparently I learned this today. The Vikings traded Stephon Diggs to the Bills this year, and in return they got the pick that they used on Justin Jefferson.
Yep.
And statistically, both of those receivers are basically identical so far this year.
Yeah, no, I think which is amazing because Justin Jefferson is really looking like he could be like, imagine Justin Jefferson playing with like the Chiefs.
Oh, I don't want to imagine that. That's do you hear the sound of the 49ers not holding a Super Bowl trophy?
But because Stephon Diggs, he's special talents, but it's attitude issue, which is why I think there were some chemistry issues there, why I think they traded him. But Jefferson, man, he's a stud. So he might get Rookie of the Year. There's some good rookies this year. I'm curious to see who's going to take that.
Yeah, this was a really deep wide receiver draft. Everybody said that going in, and we definitely have some good wide receiver performances so far. So then the 2 defensive players who wrecked face this week. First one, a name that we have not called yet this season, Jawan Bentley, linebacker for the Patriots, had 12 tackles, half a sack, 2.5 tackles for loss, and 2 quarterback hits in their, otherwise pathetic loss to the Broncos. And then Devin White in the Bucs romp over the Packers. He had 10 tackles, a sack, 3 tackles for loss, and 2 quarterback hits. Okay, so moving into our news story for the week. This is quite a shocking development. Tua Tagovailoa, is that how you say it?
Dude, I don't know how to say it.
I actually listened to it being pronounced earlier today, and I've already forgotten because it's that complicated.
Yeah, I still can't. I'm sorry, Tua. I'm a fan, but I still can't say it either. Tua
Tagovailoa was named the Dolphins' starting quarterback going forward, and there was an article by ESPN staff writer Cameron Wolfe, and he kind of walks through his stories. We're just going to call him Tua from now on because we're on a first name basis because we can't pronounce his last name. So in this article, they make the announcement. Adam Schefter, of course, who somehow is like the breaking source for everything important that happens in the NFL. So the Dolphins are going into a bye week. They just came off of that romp of the Jets, which if you look at it statistically, it was actually a pretty sad game for both teams, but the Jets are just so bad. The Dolphins handily won that game, and Fitzpatrick has played really well. In this article, Wolf actually says the move comes as a bit of a surprise because of the timing. Veteran Ryan Fitzpatrick had been playing well, leading the Dolphins to 2 consecutive wins by a combined score of 67-17. He also has the 7th best QBR, 79.6 in the NFL. So Ryan Fitzpatrick is having a, way above average career type season so far. Brought the Dolphins to 3-3. And then he goes on to say, so here's so this next part is great. So he says, for the Dolphins, this is the beginning of a new era. They believe Tagovailoa is their franchise quarterback, the one to lead them to being a consistent championship contender. That's a standard the Dolphins haven't had since Dan Marino was their starting quarterback. So, quick aside before I go to the next paragraph. Since when has a team drafted a quarterback in the first round and not expected them to make them a consistent championship contender? Crickets? Okay. So, going back to the article, Tagovailoa saw his first NFL action Sunday in a blowout win over the New York Jets. He went 2 for 2. Just listen to this article oozing with praise here. He went 2 for 2 for 9 yards while playing just 5 snaps, but he showed his mobility while rolling out on a pass to the left and gave the Dolphins coaching staff a small glimpse of how he can lead an offense. And then he's the offensive coordinator, Chan Gailey, said, "Oh gosh, yes, you go out there and you look at it. He got under duress and made an accurate throw. He sat in the pocket on third down and made a throw for a first down. Those are positives. Those are real positives. For a guy that hasn't played a snap, those are real positives." So he then just goes on to talk about where he went to school and his really impressive stats in college. But like the real reason that Joseph sent me this article actually was because we need to talk about this choice by the Dolphins coaching staff to start Tua over Fitzpatrick. So Joseph, do you want me to kind of offer my outside perspective thoughts before you share yours?
Yeah, and then if you want, if you have any, you can also ask me directed questions as well, and I can.
Okay, I'm sure I'll have some. So, this is a pretty shocking decision, and I think I actually texted Joseph about this. I think it was either before the season started or maybe 1 week into the season about what the Dolphins should do at the quarterback position. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, Joseph, but I think what I remember saying was, I didn't think the Dolphins were going to be good this year. And so I thought, well, I think they should put Fitzpatrick out there for a couple of starts. If their O-line can hold up, then they starting Tua so he can get experience to then hopefully lead them to maybe a playoff season next season or the season after that as they continue this rebuild. I was in the camp of they should put him in sooner than later because I expected them to be like a 4-12, 5-11 kind of team this year. Now we're looking at a situation where the Dolphins are 3-3. Fitzpatrick is not just like playing okay. He is carrying the Dolphins on his back kind of year. He's still making mistakes. Right. He's still an interception machine and, he still has a really long beard. But he is playing way above average and is the reason why they are doing what they're doing right now. So now that there's been that reality shift, I don't know if you can then just say, okay, we're going to put the load onto a new guy that has no experience. And then what? Right? I think the problem is it's obvious that the coaching staff is really eager to start Tua. Right? They want to get Tua out there as quickly as possible. And they probably said that around a table drinking coffee before the season started. They said, look, we want to get this guy out as soon as possible. When can we do that? And to me, this is a surprise, and it's also, I think, the wrong call. Because at this point, the Patriots are floundering, right? They're 2-3 after a kind of a pathetic loss to the Broncos. They've clearly fallen since Tom Brady left. And the only other team that's in the Dolphins' way in the division is the Bills. Now, the Bills, I think, are a strong favorite to win the division. But with the 7th playoff spot this year, you might only need an 8-8 record in the AFC to get a playoff spot. And I think the Dolphins, looking at their schedule, we can walk through that in more detail in a minute after Joseph replies. But I think they have a realistic shot of going 8-8 this year if they let Fitzpatrick continue playing the way he's playing. So my opinion is this is a mistake, and I think that they can rectify this mistake by giving him one start. In fact, who are they playing next week?
We'll have a bye next week.
Oh, that's right. Who are they playing after the bye?
The Rams.
Oof. Okay. Well, I've been talking a lot. I guess fundamentally, I think this is a mistake. I think sending him out there against the Rams is probably the wrong idea. And I think that especially a game against the Rams, who are fairly good this year, that's a game, classic example of a game where I think you could maybe win with Fitzpatrick, but you probably won't win with Tua. And if you lose a game you could have won when you're already on the outskirts of making the playoffs, then you're making a bad decision.
Yeah, so I'll pick up there. So let's first start off with, because we've been discussing when we're trying to analyze decisions, we're dancing around what certain objectives and expectations and presuppositions are on what the Dolphins have and what they should have from an outsider perspective like Jeremy and I. So clearly the Dolphins are in rebuild mode. And regardless of how Fitzpatrick has played, we've seen that they're building the pieces, right? I think the Dolphins have no worse than a top 9 receiver core and could be as well as a top 7 receiver core. And that can still be developing. And with a good quarterback, it could be top 5 in my opinion. Decent running, not the best, but not bad. And their defense, they're adding pieces. They've made trades. They're getting draft picks. They still have a very solid draft for next year. And if things are done right, it's not a stretch to say that this team can be a contender for several years, starting in about 2 or 3 years. So we need to consider for the Dolphins, they have a long-term plan, and Tua is the answer to that long-term plan, and they're building it. But there's still also a goal for this year, and it's to play the best football that you can play, and then based on your record, then make decisions about when to play Tua and how. But like Jeremy said, where they are right now, it is the wrong decision to put in Tua and not keep Fitzpatrick. So let's look at what Fitzpatrick has done so far. So Fitzpatrick is completing, you ready for this? 70.1% of his completions. 70.1% for a little over 1,500 yards. That's very good. He has 10 touchdown throws, a little low, 7 picks, a little high, but they haven't cost them. He's also very secure with the football. He's only had 1 fumble in the passing sense. I don't know if he lost that fumble or not because ESPN doesn't have it, but he's had no fumbles rushing. He has 100. Last year he was the leading Dolphins rusher. This year he's got a couple touchdowns. He has 11 first down runs for the Dolphins this year. Almost half of his rushing attempts are for first downs, and he has no fumbles as a rusher. And some of those have been key runs. So he's playing certainly better than his average, and he's playing well enough. The defense has been really improving the last few weeks. We got Brian Jones back, and and they have energy. And while the team, the players, including Fitzpatrick, by the way, his humility in this has been great. He was trying to get the crowd pumped up for Tua. He's excited. He knows he's on borrowed time, and he's having just a lot of fun. Great to see that.
Yeah, you can't understate that.
Yeah, but he's the best option, and the team is probably split because I'm sure they love Fitzpatrick. Like, he's been leading the team. You can clearly see the energy the Dolphins have and the excitement, but they're also excited for Tua. And so it would not be creating division by keeping Fitzpatrick, because it's not like Tua came in one day, played great, and then they took him out. They kept Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick has been playing the whole season and is playing good enough to get him to 3-3. I'll get to their schedule in a minute. So when you consider that the team is getting fired up, they clearly like Fitzpatrick. He's playing well enough. and he's very gritty. He does whatever he can to help the team win. And they have a chance for playoffs this year. Why would you want to put in Tua? Makes no sense. And so if the argument's, well, he needs to get playing time. Well, there's other ways for him getting playing time. One, first of all, for the Jets game, well, I'll get that in a minute. Sorry. You put him in blowout losses or blowout wins. So for the Jets game, I'll say that they made a mistake. They put him in too late. The Jets were doing nothing. They were a dud. You could have in my opinion, I know this creates controversy. I have people in my family who disagree, and they're wrong. But you could have put Joe Burrow's.
Joseph, you're supposed to wait to say that until Thanksgiving dinner. Come on.
You could have put Joe Burrow's LSU team out there, and they would have beaten the Jets, or at least come close. Absolutely. I know we had that argument later, but anyways, the Jets are an embarrassment to the NFL. And so being up 24-0, there was no reason to not put Tua in sooner in the fourth quarter to give him more playing time. Or you put him in the blowout losses, whenever that happens. Or you put him in later on in the season after you see maybe the Dolphins go to like 4-7 and they're like, okay, now it's time. But right now, where they're at, this is the wrong decision. Let's look at their schedule, and then I'll pass it on and see if Jeremy has anything more to say if he wants to ask me questions. So I'm going to look at this every 2 games, just to kind of keep it simple. So the next 2 games, Rams, Cardinals. I think it's possible to split those. Jeremy, what do you think?
I think probability is an 0-2 there, but I think there's an outside chance. I guess you guys could pick up one of those.
Okay, here we go. Next, after that, Chargers, Broncos. I think easily pick up one.
I think both of those are winnable, and I think you have a good shot at least one.
Okay, Jets, Bengals.
I think you have a good shot at both of those.
Yeah. So right now, that's putting us at 5-7 to 7-5 in that range. So we'll say 6-6 is reasonable there. Now, these next 4 games aren't as easy. And I told Jeremy, I think the Dolphins could have done 8 or 9 wins. I retract that. I should have said 7 or 8. I'm focusing on the 8 there. I do think 8 is reasonable. So the next 4 are tougher. So you have Chiefs, Patriots, Raiders, Bills. But the Patriots aren't as strong as we thought they were. And the Raiders are still kind of up in the air. The Raiders are kind of weird this year. Bills, we played them tough, partly in the first. Right, we played them really. We lost 31-28, and that was Josh Allen's like one of his best games. So we played the Bills tough. So yeah, 8 wins is pretty likely. It is, and 8 might get you a playoff spot. There's 4 teams competing for the last 2 wild card. You have the Browns, you have the Colts, you have the Dolphins, and the Raiders. 4 teams fighting for those last 2 spots. So you can still solve the objective of Tua playing and get to a playoff spot this year and still have your long-term plan. Because what's best for Tua and the Dolphins long-term is to not do this decision. What's best for the Dolphins now is to not do this decision. So I'll end there. I think I said enough.
Yeah, I think because, and only because, you guys are within striking range of a playoff spot, you should not start Tua. I think that has to be the primary decision-making factor in this. And I think if you guys lose to the Rams and the Cardinals, again, in the event that you were to continue starting Fitzpatrick, so basically do what we're saying they should be doing right now. If they lost to the Rams and the Cardinals, then I'd say, okay, you give them a shot against the Chargers. If they lose to the Chargers and they're 3-6, then I'd say, okay, you can start Tua. But I think they've got a couple games that they're more likely than not to lose. And then the Chargers there's a 4-game stretch that really opens up for them. The Chargers, Broncos, Jets, Bengals game, which there is a universe in which they could go 4-0 in that stretch. And you just, I don't know, man. It's just so hard to see a new guy coming in, a team that's still a bit rickety because of the rebuild, and just saying, "Oh, I'm going to go 4-0."
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. Fitzpatrick, no. Worst case, he had 1 passing fumble that he lost. No rushing fumbles, only 10 sacks, which partly has to do with him. And what did we see with Josh Allen? What have we seen with other quarterbacks that are rookies? They struggle with getting rid of the ball on time. They can get hit. They're blindside. The fumbles and sacks are probably going to go up a rate basis per game. And yeah, I mean, why now? Like, why after 2 consecutive wins do you take him out? I mean, if you have 2 consecutive losses, maybe I'd understand. But 2 consecutive wins and a close one against Seattle, keep him in there. Because what if they went 5-3 with Fitzpatrick? There's no way they'd put in Tua if that was the case. No way. So this is just weird. And one last thing, I'll end here, random but kind of relevant. Tua, his completing a pass, 2 passes or a pass against the Jets, that was the first completed pass by a left-handed quarterback since the end of the 2015 season by Kellen Moore. Talk about discrimination. Wow. Left-handed quarterbacks. Why do we hate left-handed quarterbacks so much?
I don't know, but that's a golden stat there.
Yeah, 1 first completed pass by a lefty in almost 5 years.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
I'll admit that's pretty crazy.
I'm done. I'm ready to move on.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to our 5th segment of the night. Our commentators say the darndest things. I'll go first, and then Joseph had a couple. So the one I had is from our game of the week, the Browns at Steelers game. And this one, just to preface, is not the commentators saying something that makes the commentators look dumb. It's the commentators saying something that, after thinking about it for half a second, makes the player look dumb. So Jim Nantz said, quote, "They," meaning the Browns. Okay, so actually, let me just back up and describe the situation real quick. So the Browns, it was near the end of the first half, and the Steelers had the ball, and it was like 40 seconds left, and I think it was 2nd down, and the Steelers' strategy was just obviously at that point to run out the clock, to not give the ball back to the Browns. Okay, so situation set, stage set for this comment. Jim Nantz says the Browns will just let him go out of bounds there, referring to the receiver of the Patriots. They'll let him do that, right? Because it stops the clock. Then Romo says, "That's why you've got to tell them," referring to the huddle when Big Ben tells his receiver, "Don't go out of bounds." And my comment is, you should never need to tell a player not to go out of bounds in that situation. How are you telling me that wide receivers that are good in this league aren't aware of the clock? Like, in that situation, it was just so obvious that you don't go out of bounds to keep the clock running, or at least at a minimum force the Browns to use a timeout. Just amazing. Like, sometimes these boneheaded moments, we got to point them out when they happen, because they certainly cause pain for me.
So I don't know if this play was relevant to that, but there was one that I saw in the Browns Steelers game that made me upset, where the guy got out of bounds. I got on my chair and just started like talking to myself, and I was just like, I can't stand when they do that. Why did they do that? Why is he getting out of bounds? All right, so I have 3, and I thought I was done talking about the Dolphins, but all 3 of mine are from the Dolphins game. Now these aren't necessarily the dumbest things. I actually kind of like these, but it's from the same announcer, not Mark Schlereth, but the same announcer made all 3 of these. I kind of like the announcing combo with the Jets Dolphins game. Anyways, so Xavier Howard gets a pick, has 4 on the year, leading the league, and the guy says, all he does is pick off passes.
Just like Russell Wilson, all he does is win.
That was in the second quarter. In the third quarter, I love this one. So again, something that Fitzpatrick did that Tua probably not have done. It was great. So Fitzpatrick is evading a sack pressure. He gets hit. He probably would have been brought down. He would have just been brought down on the run. It would have been a sack for a loss of 3 to 5 yards. But he like turns and tosses it underhand, left-handed to the tight end, who gets like a 4-yard gain. And the one announcer asks, like, "Is that a left-handed toss by Fitzpatrick?" And the guy, the other one who said all three of these was, "Yeah, eat your heart out, Patrick Mahomes."
What?
I love that one. And this next one, oh, this is great. Like this guy, like these are great. These aren't even like dumb. These are just hilarious. These are good. Frank Gore, fourth quarter. Frank Gore. They're talking about Frank Gore and his career, and he's played in 232 career games, which is third all time for running backs and fullbacks. But the
obvious Hall of Fame.
Yeah, the two ahead of him, are fullbacks. So he's like, I guess, the longest starting running back. And the announcer says, "Do you know what he should do next? Find out where Tom Brady is. Get on that team. Nobody will talk about him being the oldest guy on the team."
Nice.
So those were great. Mark Schlereth, I still have a bunch from him in the previous weeks. His are like essays though. You got to find them. Take forever to type them out, and analyze them. But these were just quick and great, and I need to find out who this guy is because those were good.
There was a funny picture going around on Twitter the other day of someone comparing Frank Gore when he was, I think it was like right after he got drafted, to a picture, like a side-by-side pictures of right after he got drafted to him now, and he just looks the same. It's pretty amazing. All right, so our final segment of the week is our prediction segment, broken up into first our tricky picks and then our week predictions, our week 7 predictions. So for tricky picks, this week, this might be my first winning week of tricky picks. I was 3-2, and Joseph was 2-3. So proof that even though he creates these picks, that he's not rigging the system. His overall season record, though, of 13-10 is still better than my 11-12. So you have a few more for this week, Joseph. So let's hear them.
So the first one, Pittsburgh versus Tennessee. What will be higher? TJ Watt's tackles for loss or Derrick Henry's 20-yard runs plus rushing touchdowns? For context, I have context on all these. Watt so far leads the league with 10 tackle for loss. Derrick Henry only has 8 combined. Both of his 20-yard runs in the league year were from the last game. And then he has 6 rushing touchdowns. So far the total is 10 versus 8. And Steelers are a good defense. Henry's on fire though. What's going to be higher? Yeah, so for Henry, it's 20-yard plus runs plus rushing touchdowns.
Dumb clarification question. Does a sack count in this scenario as a tackle for loss?
So I thought they necessarily do, but I saw the other day someone had 4 sacks and 3 tackles for loss. So if the sack, I guess, is 0 yards, it's possible to get a sack with 0 yards. So it's not necessarily one. Most likely it will be, probability-wise, but not necessarily.
Okay. I'm going to say TJ Watt.
All right, I'm going same. But that feels like a trap pick, both of us, to be honest.
It does. Yeah, that one's a really tough one.
Yeah. And that's why I added the context, because it's hard, because Watt's winning now. All right, this one, honestly, guys, this is one of my favorites. And it's going to make Jeremy give more dead air. Seattle versus Arizona. Kyler Murray versus Russell Wilson. All right. Which will be higher for either quarterback? Ready? Total touchdown plus receivers thrown to for a reception plus rushing attempts, minus interceptions, minus sacks. I did the calculation. So far, that total for Wilson is 29.4 a game, and Murray it's 33.2 because Murray has more rushing, but he has more sacks and more picks.
So, sorry, what are the positive categories again?
Total touchdowns, so rushing and throwing touchdowns. Receivers that get a completion, and rushing attempts.
Let's see. Let me walk through this methodically. So I think Wilson will have more touchdowns. I think he'll have less receivers thrown to. And what was the third one?
Rushing attempts.
And I think he'll also have fewer rushing attempts. And then the negatives were interceptions, and what was the other one?
Sacks.
I think Russell Wilson will be sacked more and have less interceptions. So if he has less positive, but more less positive than less negative, if that makes sense. I think I'm going to go Murray on this one.
Same here. Yeah, the only thing would be is, if Russell Wilson wants to get hot and if the Seahawks are a better defense than some of the teams Murray has played.
When has he ever wanted to do that in the second half of a football game?
Yeah. So I'm really proud of that one. And I actually was a little surprised that Murray came out with almost about 10% advantage on the season so far with those. And then our last pick, it's a tricky pick special. And for those who are watching football back in the early 2000s, it's a throwback to you. The Bucs and Raiders are playing this week. Well, they also played another game a while back in the Super Bowl. And the Bucs annihilated the Raiders. So for our tricky pick special, we have 6 picks. So again, it's the majority of those to get 1 point. And it's going to be all connecting back to the team stats of that Super Bowl. Jeremy, you don't have the picks there, but you do have the team stats. So you can reference those while I'm giving you these. Okay. Rushing yards. Will Tampa Bay have more than 150 rushing yards? How many they had in Super Bowl?
No.
Okay, I'm going yes. All right. Quarterback passing. Will the lowest quarterback have at least 172 passing yards, which was the most in that game by the Raiders, even though they lost?
Yes.
Okay, same. Sacks. Will the total sacks 5 or higher for both teams combined?
No.
Okay, same. Will either team, so there were 6 turnovers total, but 5 against the Raiders. So the average of 3 each. Will either team have at least 3 turnovers?
No.
Okay, I'm going yes. Time of possession. So when the Bucs won, their time of possession was 37 minutes and 14 seconds. Will the highest time of possession team, not necessarily the winner, will it be greater than 37 minutes?
No.
Same. And then lastly, the score of the Super Bowl was 48-21. So our tricky pick is, will the lowest scoring team reach 21 points?
Yes.
I'm going no.
Ooh.
So, yeah, I think that Bucs defense. I think they're going to come out firing after they put that beat down on Aaron Rodgers. So,
yeah, for context, a 37-minute time of possession is brutal.
Yes.
So that's unlikely to be surpassed.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't go with the first downs because Tampa Bay had 24 first downs in that game, dude.
That's crazy.
So, all right, done with those.
All right. So our picks this last week were a bit sad. So there were 14 games. I was 8-6. And Joseph and I differed on 3 picks, and I picked up all of them. So Joseph was 5-9. The 3 games were Texans at Titans, Bengals at Colts, and Bears at Panthers. Titans, Colts, Bears were the winners.
I should have gotten 2 of those. I should have picked up a game on you because 2 of those should have been
Yeah,
wins
the
for me.
Bengals blew a lead, and
Texans.
obviously the Texans made a dumb decision, and the Bears just outplayed the Panthers. So, but yeah, that was, you definitely should have won 2 of those. So my season record now is the first time it's dipped below 70% for the season. 61, 28, and 1 for 68.5%, and Joseph is 52, 37, and 1 for 58.4%.
Not even 3/5, not even 60%.
Yeah, you got to get to back up to 60, man, and then we'll talk.
Well, I want to get to 2/3.
If you get back to 60%, I might invite you to be my co-host next week. How about that? All right. So going to our week 7 predictions, I'll start. So first game is the game of the week by a mile, and that is Giants at Eagles. In the greatest division of all time, there's more wins in that division than it is even possible to get wins in a division this year. Giants at Eagles, I'm going Eagles.
So am I, dude. The NFC winner could have like 5 or 6 wins.
Yes, I sent Joseph a text this week of a guy that was Peter King, well known in the football circles, but he sent a tweet out with a just a hypothetical playoff scenario of I think it was the Bears, right? Bears, yeah, it was the first round of playoffs. Bears 11-5 versus the whatever seed Eagles at 5, 10, and 1.
Like, people, the funny thing is, this is just proving the case that I've made against many people who have disagreed with me, including Jeremy, and are still wrong.
That there shouldn't be divisions. Yeah, I know.
Get rid of divisions because, the very rare times that you get a 7, 8, or 9 win team, but now you're gonna have a 5 or a 6 win team. Oh, it's gonna be great.
Yeah.
All right, all right. Detroit at Atlanta. I think Matt Ryan's gonna come firing out again. I'm going Falcons.
Same. Browns at Bengals. I know the Browns put up a stinker this week, but I think that was because they played probably a top 5 team in the NFL. I think the Browns are going to come back this week.
So another tough one. I'm going with Joe Burrow again because he's just, they're so close. They were beating up on the Colts, who I think are just as good, if not better than the Browns, and they blew it. He's making improvements. Baker Mayfield was hurt. Apparently, if you heard of the game, he had some sore ribs. So I don't think he's going to be 100%. And I think they're still missing Nick Chubb. So it's going to be a close, tough game, but I'm going Bengals.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I knew you were going to do that because of Joe overrated Burrow. Steelers at Titans. This is tough. But after what I saw in our game of the week this week, I'm going to go Steelers.
This is also tough, and I'm sorry, bro, if you're listening. But, I mean, Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill are just... Yeah, I'm going Titans. This is such a tough game to pick. But
it is. I would not be surprised if I lose this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think Chase Claypool is going to put some monster numbers, but I think Tannehill right now for this season is playing better than Big Ben. The Steelers have a better defense, but how many times this season has Derrick Henry truly been stopped? He's had some okay games and then some several good or great games, but has he ever been stopped yet? And maybe once. So I think honestly, this is like a 38-35 game right here.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Steelers' path to winning this game is they can't let the Titans get into a passing rhythm.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
If they force the Titans to be one-dimensional and go to Henry, I think they've got a shot.
All
right. Next one.
Carolina at Saints, going Saints.
Same, and the Saints is my eliminator pick for this week.
Same here. Which to everyone else, we've survived 6 weeks.
I know, and that's the longest I've ever gone. So
yeah, I think this is tied for my longest, or a little shorter than my longest. But Jeremy and I have never gone this far before together, so this is great.
From here on out, I'm walking the plank. Bills at Jets. I I mean, obviously the Jets. So no, I'm going Bills.
Yeah, I think this is the Jets turn around. This is the time to give it to them, so I'm going Bills.
uh, you have the next one, right? Or do I?
Yeah. So I do. So speaking of another atrocious division, by the way, there were half of the games this week were division games.
Yes.
But this is just, I mean, this is just as bad as the other one. Dallas, especially because Dak's gone. Dallas at Washington. I mean, can we pick like the refs to win this game? Can we pick a third party to win this game? Because not even the fans win this game. It's so bad. I mean, I'm going Dallas only because I think Dalton is better than whoever Washington puts out there, and they still have Ezekiel Elliott. So, I mean, it might be like a 17-15 game, and Washington gets all their points on field goals, but I think Dallas barely edges it out.
Okay, yeah, I had a similar narrative for my justification for picking the Cowboys on this one, so we're the same. Packers at Texans. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to bounce back, and I think the Texans are still middling. So I'm going Packers.
Same, though. I wanted to pick Texans. Watson looked great. I knew Rodgers was going to bounce back, but this one was tough.
I think this will be a shootout, but I think the Packers are going to win.
Fair enough. Same. I'll say the same. Seattle versus Arizona. I think this would be a good game, and you'll find out that it is in a few minutes. But I'm going Seattle. Russell Wilson will find a way, like he always does, and Kyler Murray is still growing with his team. So
I anticipated Joseph was going to lean Seahawks on this one, and I think this is a maybe a little bit of a trap game for the Seahawks. So I'm actually going to go Cardinals.
Ooh.
I think the Cardinals have the right strengths to amplify the Seahawks' weaknesses this year.
All right.
So I'm going to go Cardinals. And we know obviously the last several years that the Cardinals play the Seahawks really tough every year. So it's always a competitive game. Next one is Chiefs at Broncos. Chiefs.
Niners at New England. Broncos made this one actually easier for me to pick. I'm going Niners. Jimmy looked better, and I think the Niners will find a way to win.
Same. I'm a believer again after that Rams game. So, and this is another must-win game for the Niners. Jaguars at Chargers. Blah is my pick. The Jaguars have been pretty bad, so I'm going Chargers.
Same. Jacksonville's Minshew madness is madness for the wrong reason, and Justin Herbert is just really getting much better. And Chargers will take this one.
Yep.
Tampa at Raiders. So I got hold on, man. Let me do it.
You can't do it.
Tampa at the Raiders.
All right, Chris Berman, what's your pick?
I'm going Bucks.
Same. And then our last game of the week is actually a very tough choice. And this one is Bears at Rams. And I, after much deliberation, decided on the Rams.
Same with deliberation and same with the Rams.
The Rams. All right, so we're different on 2. Is that correct? Steelers at Titans and Seahawks at Cardinals?
No, Bengals, Cleveland.
Oh, that's right. Yep, that's right. 3. All right, so we're different on 3.
Bengals, Titans, and Cardinals.
Yes. All right, so I got those highlighted in red, so we're looking for those next week to see if Joseph can pick up any ground on his -9 margin right now in the picks. So buys this week are Colts, Dolphins, Vikings, and Ravens, and our game of the week is none other than Seahawks at Cardinals.
I'm actually looking forward to watching that game.
I am too. I always look forward to these specific mashups. They're always fun to watch. All right, so With that, that is a wrap. If you enjoyed tonight's episode or any of our past episodes, please like, share, and subscribe here on YouTube, as those are free ways for you to support our show. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at The Practice Squad and at Neuralizer_. Just as a reminder, if you've missed past episodes, you can watch or listen to them right here on my YouTube channel. The show is online immediately after we go live, so if you missed any of our foolish banter, you can always rewind and start from the beginning. As always, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
The Raiders.